Knowing the rubric is the key to acing English. When you know the rubric inside out, you will be ready to identify deeper ideas in texts, respond to unseen questions, and create sophisticated thesis statements in your essays. This video is part 1 of our 2-part Textual Conversations series introducing the module. First, let's analyse the name of this module. What is a textual conversation anyway? Generally speaking, a conversation is an exchange of ideas between 2 or more people using speech, sign language, or some other form of real-time communication. The people having the conversation usually know each other and respond to one another, back and forth. A textual conversation is more abstract. The phrase gives you a weird image in your head, doesn't it? As if 2 texts are sitting down together for a deep and meaningful chat about life, literature, and the universe. But how would this work if the texts are separated by decades or even centuries? One way to think about it is this: no text is created in a vacuum. All texts, no matter their form or when they were made, contribute to a larger conversation. This conversation has been going on since humans first started telling stories. Since texts are composed by people, at least until robots take over, each story and each voice continue the conversation that echoes down the ages. Way back in the 1960s, French literary theorist Roland Barthes said that every text is eternally written here and now. This seems like a weird idea, and it has certainly caused a lot of debate. Even so, Barthes had some interesting things to say about literature. His theory empowers us to interpret a pair of texts not as entirely separate, but as 2 contributions to the same eternal conversation. Whether it's deliberate or not, pairs of texts will often connect or clash about similar ideas, even if they are centuries apart. Humans really don't change that much. Now, let's take a closer look at the aspects of this conversation that you will have to study. As you've probably already figured out, you will study a pair of texts in this module. The texts are prescribed, which means that your teacher at school has selected them from a list of set texts. You will study your pair of texts together and explore the connections between them. To be successful in this module, you need to know both your texts thoroughly. That's why it's always best to get a head start by reading your texts as soon as possible. Let's dive into the rubric. The first sentence states, "In this module, students explore the ways in which the comparative study of texts can reveal resonances and dissonances between and within texts." A comparative study simply means that you study 2 texts together and find similarities and connections between the 2 texts. It may seem like the 2 composers are on the same wavelength about some things. We call these resonances. You will also notice they will have some key differences, disagreements, or clashes. These are termed dissonances. We can't expect 2 composers to be in harmony about everything. It's interesting to note the phrase between and within the texts. This is reminding us that we must map out key points across the 2 texts. We must also study each individual text in detail, noting any ideas that connect or clash inside each text. Let's look at a pair of texts we can all relate to: Sleeping Beauty and Maleficent. Neither of these films are prescribed for the HSC. We'll just use them to show you how you would apply the rubric to these comparative texts. We all know that Maleficent is a reimagining of Sleeping Beauty. This is handy because reimagining is a key word from our rubric. The two films were released 55 years apart. A lot changes in 5 decades. They are both Disney studio productions, but they were directed and produced by different people. Before we compare the two films, let's look at them individually. The ideas that resonate within Sleeping Beauty include monarchy and order, femininity and nature, and masculinity and heroism. The filmmakers depict these ideas as logically harmonious and invite us to agree. These ideas also resonate with American politics and culture of the 1950s. The dissonance, or lack of harmony in the film, arises from the conflict between the good humans and the evil Maleficent. All the powers of hell are represented in Maleficent, who terrorises the peaceful kingdom for fun. Being left off the guest list for the royal christening was just the excuse she needed to start a holy war. Now let's consider the 2014 film, Maleficent. The ideas that resonate within this film include femininity and nature, royalty and corruption, and humanity and greed. They also resonate with American popular culture of the 21st century. A lot changed since 1959. The dissonances within the film are seen on a few levels. We see Maleficent's internal struggle and regret over the curse she placed on the Princess Aurora. We also see the broader disharmony created by man's greed, selfishness, and relentless pursuit of power. It's now the forces of nature, represented by Maleficent, against a corrupt human kingdom. Let's consider the resonances between the films. They both explore similar themes: good versus evil, destiny, true love, even the connection between femininity and nature. Both feature a beautiful, innocent princess who is the victim of a vengeful curse. Aurora is raised in the woods by 3 fairies and gets chummy with all the woodland creatures. On her 16th birthday, the curse activates. She pricks her finger on the needle of an enchanted spinning wheel and falls into a sleep like death. Spinning wheels feature in both films as a symbol for destiny. It's especially fun to spot the hidden ones in Maleficent. In the end, Aurora is awakened by true love's kiss, gets her handsome Prince Philip, good triumphs over evil, and order is restored in the kingdom. But this is where the similarities between the two texts end. The dissonances between the two texts are really interesting. Warning, spoiler alert. For a start, they have very different depictions of true love. In Sleeping Beauty, it's Prince Philip who holds the power to awaken Aurora with true love's kiss. Whereas in Maleficent, it's Maleficent herself who awakens Aurora by admitting her wrongdoing, vowing to protect the sleeping princess, and gently kissing her on the forehead. Princes come and go, but there's no truer love than motherhood. Am I right? Then you have their different approaches to the idea of evil. In Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent is just pure evil. There's no reason given for it, it's just her nature to be a baddie. In the 2014 film, Maleficent is given a darn good reason for turning against the neighbouring kingdom. The real evil in the film is man's tendencies to be deceitful, selfish, greedy, cruel, and destructive. You're doing great. Now that you've got the hang of resonances and dissonances, let's move on to the next part of the rubric. Students consider the ways that a reimagining or reframing of an aspect of a text might mirror, align, or collide with the details of another text. When you start to study your texts side by side, you may notice that one of the texts will recycle or reuse aspects of the other. It could be anything, like characters, situations, ideas, settings, symbols, or themes. If you are studying texts from different time periods, the newer text will often reimagine or creatively reconstruct an aspect of the older text. One of the texts may also reframe an aspect of the other text by looking at it from a different point of view. When this happens, you will be offered a new perspective or way of viewing things. You may even question ideas that you previously thought were true, or develop empathy for a previously silent or misunderstood character. Your job is to figure out where the texts match up and where they clash when reimagining or reframing occurs. Sleeping Beauty and Maleficent can help us here. The story of Sleeping Beauty was given a total creative makeover 55 years later in the live-action blockbuster film Maleficent. The amazing special effects, gorgeous costumes, and remastered theme song by Lana Del Rey are just the beginning. In Maleficent, the storyline was fleshed out, the woodland setting of the Moors became a digital work of art, and the characters were given interesting backstories. Even Diavel the Raven. Maleficent reimagined Sleeping Beauty in breathtaking detail, right down to the hidden spinning wheels. Maleficent also reframed the story of Sleeping Beauty by telling it from Maleficent's point of view. By offering us the villain's side of the story, we begin to question things like the nature of evil and the meaning of true love. We even feel sorry for Maleficent's fire-breathing dragon. You've got this. Let's round off our lesson by looking at how you are going to explore common or disparate issues, values, assumptions, or perspectives, and how these are depicted. When you're comparing your two texts, you'll be looking for what they have in common and what sets them apart. A good place to start is by comparing and contrasting their issues, meaning the ideas or themes they explore. For example, destiny is a key issue in both Sleeping Beauty and Maleficent. Once the spinning wheels are set in motion by the curse, mind our prickly pun, Aurora's fate is sealed. There's nothing she can do about it. Both films depict how some words can't be unspoken, so be careful what you say in anger. The key difference is that Maleficent, in the 2014 film, deeply regrets the curse and desperately tries to revoke it. You should also do the same for their values, or the life lessons we learn from the texts. Sleeping Beauty teaches us about the importance of truth, virtue, bravery, and upholding the monarchy. Young girls should be obedient, seek to marry someone with power and status, and sing beautifully. Maleficent generally agrees with the values of truth, virtue, and bravery, but on different terms. Maleficent also offers more modern values such as protect the environment, avoid revenge, love your mum, regardless of whether you share DNA, and be your own saviour. Don't rely on a man to save you. You may also look at the assumptions in texts, which could be expectations or things that are taken to be true without proof. Some assumptions offered in Sleeping Beauty include that some people are just bad by nature. Good girls will be saved, true love exists, and marriage means a happy ending. Maleficent offers a few disparate or different assumptions, like how romantic relationships often fail and humans are corrupted by power. Interestingly, both films share the assumption that good girls will be saved and have happy endings. It's just that they disagree on what it means to be saved and what a happy ending looks like. Finally, you could consider the perspectives depicted in both texts. Perspective is a way of seeing the world and regarding situations. It's like a lens through which we perceive reality. Our perspectives are influenced by our values. Since texts are created by human beings, no text is neutral. Every text will offer a particular way of seeing the world. Your job is to recognise this and not be a passive consumer. You have the freedom to decide whether or not you want to accept the perspectives offered in a text. One way of figuring out what the perspectives are in a text is to see which characters and situations are depicted as good and bad. Whose voice do we hear the most? Who are we positioned to dislike? Who wins in the end? Think about the way Sleeping Beauty ends. Maleficent is killed, Aurora is saved by Prince Philip, and order is restored to the kingdom by the promise of their marriage. This offers a very conservative perspective of the world. Traditional values of monarchy, marriage, and social order are upheld. If we accept this perspective, then we accept that the world is a better place with a strong monarchy, strict social order, and marriage as the ultimate goal for women. Maleficent offers different perspectives, influenced by more modern values. Maleficent is depicted as a powerful, independent female character. She is an environmental warrior and a nurturing mother figure. She is the one who saves Aurora and brings the deceitful, corrupt king to justice. Order is restored when Aurora returns to the forest with Maleficent. This offers us some feminist and pro-environment perspectives on the world. The fact that all the kings in the film are depicted as the baddies also offers us an anti-monarchist perspective. Well done. Now that you know what you're looking for, we need to analyse how it's depicted. This means you need to look at the way each composer has used language forms and techniques to depict the issues, values, assumptions, or perspectives. If you're starting to feel overwhelmed, don't worry, we've got you covered. To get a head start, we recommend you find out which text types you'll be studying. For example, you might be studying a play and a novel, or 2 suites of poetry, or a novel and a film. Once you know your text types, click through to our English Essentials series. There, you will find quick and easy lessons on how to analyse poetry, prose, film, and drama. Your teacher will be so impressed. We hope you enjoyed this schooling online production. For more easy lessons on the HSC English Advanced course, check out Part 2 of our series on the Module A rubric.